Hello, and welcome to our session on private networks and edge computing. I'm Kelly Hill, Executive Editor of RCR Wireless News, and I'm pleased to be joined this morning by Caroline Chan, who is Vice President and General Manager of the 5G Infrastructure Division for Intel's Network Platform Group, Ben Alfie, who is founder and CEO of Blue White Robotics, and Chris Swan, Chief Commercial Officer of Federated Wireless. Welcome to all of you, and I'm going to go ahead and turn the discussion over to the three of you so that you can fill us in on all the ins and outs of private networks and edge computing.
Thank you, Kelly, and thanks, Chris and Ben, for joining me. And we are all friends now. We went through this. We got share a little case study with you, and some of this. Little bit of us how sausage is made, and we became good friends because through the learning, through the journey together. But let me just go ahead and start with some of the preambles. Why we believed, all three of us, and hopefully after this, you will believe too that private network and edge compute is really a perfect combination. We go through a case study for the precision agriculture side. Next page, please. I want to just talk through about setting what is a private wireless network versus what we typically see today, which is a network offered by the public carrier to many of us in serving our phones and so on. It really is it's a network dedicated to drive a better coverage, as well capacity and control and security for a particular enterprise. And that's really key, because what is distinguished between a public network to a private network is really about the control of the enterprise users. So in the form of, it could be private, fully private, owned and operated by the enterprise. It could be a hybrid, such as a public network that has a dedicated portion of it to the private enterprise. Even a public network with for example, network slice that we heard so much about. But they have a common theme, is that the network is served to solve a particular business problem that the enterprise has. And that is a key differentiation between this and what we've been served today very capably by our public network today already. Next page, please. So if you looked at this private network and something we call MEC 2.0, this is the market trend that Intel is experiencing. So when we started what we call MEC 1.0 or multi-access mobile edge compute, it's a very telco-centric term. I was actually part of the task force within SC that started this. We really look at it as an extension of the telco onwards to the edge. MEC 2.0 becomes a little bit of a retune of the MEC 1.0 concept. It became a hyper-converged edge. It's much more focusing on telco, OT, and IT together. And that's a clear distinction. One from telco-centric, serving enterprise, to a telco plus OT plus IT and the served enterprise. It's not just a terminology change, it's actually a mindset, a skill set, and the solution mix change as well. So one example would be if you look at the Industry 4.0, a lot of the transformation is taking place because people are looking at from automation to autonomy. It's not just about automating the workflow. It's about taking the data to be able to analyze it and use it, drive autonomy inside the factory floor. So later on, we have a different case study about agriculture, and I think Ben and Chris will have a lot more to share with that. The other thing is coexistence with what's already on the shop floor today, which typically could be a Wi-Fi, it could be Ethernet. It's not about one replacing the other. And remember, this is not a technology conversation. It's about solving a business problem. We are not there to make the TCO worse. We're here to improve the efficiency and the TCO. And then the pain points, make it easy button. The whole the Office Depot easy button concept very much exists in here. Why would people choose a private network because this is going to be customized and used to solve an enterprise issue. And that's really a key concept that we have. Next page, please. And we just want to share a little bit about what we're seeing in the growth trends. Okay. At the end of the day, we are nonprofit industry. We are profit industry, I should say, P&L focused industry. So we have been constantly surveying the marketplace, the enterprise, the CIOs. What are the growing trends and what are people really looking for? We do find that 4G and 5G, especially with the availability of different spectrum, such as CBRS, which Chris's company can talk a lot about, and as well as some of the dedicated spectrum that's out there, for example, Germany, Sweden, and Japan, and Korea, and some places in Asia. You see more and more of that. It really start driving the growth of cellular presence in what we call the private network, in addition to Wi-Fi. And then in terms of verticals, we see different verticals emerging at the early adopters. Industrial is definitely one. We see venue, we see education, and surprisingly, probably to my pleasant surprise, agriculture. A lot of it is because what we're facing today, drought situation, supply chain constraints, scarcity of food in some places, and labor shortage. The drive of sustainability really started driving a lot of the autonomy decision making, and which grow a lot of the verticals into adopting cellular network in our verticals. So it became this perfect situation. It creates a very exciting landscape for all of us to be part of. And I'm very glad that we have some of the folks that we have here today and to share some of it with you. Next page, please, Jeff. And if you look at, well, what's Intel's role into this enterprise private network? First and foremost, we are trust advisor. And that's a traditional role Intel been playing. We have a neutral role in this ecosystem. We build ecosystem together. We obviously supply silicon, which everybody, that's what we're known of, CPUs, FPGAs, and different connectivity cards. But it's more than that. We actually also supply software. For example, we gave reference design software called FlexRAN to enable many of the 4G and 5G network. We actually have IoT group that supply many of the enabling software, such as OpenVINO, Edge Insight. These are software tools to allow our developers to quickly develop commercial software based on that. In addition, we also supply commercial software, such as Smart Edge Commercial, that becomes a Mac 2.0 controller. Last but not least, we act as industry influencer. We are obviously, besides 3GPP, we actively in. We also work in Wi-Fi Alliance, and also work in many of the 5G in vertical consortiums. 5G ACIA focusing on industrial, 5G AA focusing on automotive, and we started the 5G Open Innovation Lab, where we met both Chris and Ben, which is driving, really simplifying the 5G network, such that you provide this API to allow the developers, to attract the developer who traditionally avoid the network, because network is complex, network is more telco, and I'm a software developer. Why would I be interested in doing 5G? So we formed this consortium early on with Microsoft, with T-Mobile, Dell, VMware, M-DOS, and so on, with line-minded folks to say, look, 5G network has gone through network transformation. It's software-defined. It's cloudified. It really, you should look at it as more of a scaffolding, a software framework that you can write your application, your domain-specific application on top of it. And that has triggered a slew of many different very capable software developers, such as Blue White Robotics, to come on and start writing applications on this. And with that, we started this journey together. So I actually, before we start our fireside chat, I would like to play a video that showcase of the case study. A video, please.
The world is at a crisis. The world is going to be 10 billion people by 2050. Our diet is changing. More people need to eat healthy food in a reasonable price. We are at the era where instead of tractor drivers or pilots, we're going to drone operators and robot operators. Blue White Robotics was established to help industries go with the revolution of autonomy by enabling autonomous capabilities today and not just tomorrow.
We figured out that agriculture is the most suitable industry to adopt autonomous technologies on large scale today. Our solution is built on 3 pillars. First, the robot that can be installed on any existing tractor and operate in any permanent crop. Second is our software platform that enables to operate to manage the fleet in optimized way, collect data and distribute it. The platform is built to work with any kind of robot. And the third pillar is the service. We believe that the adoption process is key. As you're probably well aware, most of the farming areas in a lot of places in the world suffer from lack of connectivity. Technology basically rely on that to get real-time information and actionable data.
The beauty of a private network is you can bring a network to the farm, set up radios, and get that reliable, high-speed, low-latency connectivity that the farm needs. In this case, we're able to cover for about 1.5 miles, almost 2 miles in multiple directions, so tractors and other devices can stay connected. Private wireless solves a lot of problems, security, privacy, as well as the power of having edge devices that can actually reach out, like the Intel Smart Edge, which is what we're running the core and everything else on from Intel.
We're always looking for really interesting use cases that test the technology. So the combination of the ruggedness, the AI that they use for the tractors in a pretty challenging environment. And it's fantastic to be in there at the ground helping out an entrepreneurial organization that is really trying to change how agriculture is done. I'm really excited to see this technology used in a way that can actually improve agricultural production for the world. That's just mind-blowing.
Well, welcome back. Hopefully you enjoy the cowboy boots and the cowboy hat in the winery. So let's start our fireside chat, and I would like to introduce Ben and Chris, who joined me in this friendly fireside chat. Maybe controversial. I don't mind at all. So with that, so maybe Ben and Chris, you can introduce what your company do, and then I'll start with the first question to Ben.
So Chris, go ahead, and I'll do it with the question together.
Oh, sure. Sounds good. Thanks for that, Ben. So I'm Chris Wan, Chief Commercial Officer for Federated Wireless. Federated Wireless has actually been in the private wireless and spectrum sharing business for quite a long time, and really originated a lot of the concepts working with many partners in the CBRS space. So this special spectrum, citizens broadband radio spectrum. So we're really operating in that spectrum in the United States. We're also, as Caroline mentioned, working with international spectrum now, and adding things like Wi-Fi 6E and other really cool new technologies to the market. And so with that, we've really built a large business practice over the last 3 years that focuses on private wireless deployments, helping enterprises and governments hit the maximum efficiencies, get to their ROI goals with things like robotics and self-driving autonomous vehicles or other factors. And in the case of Blue White Robotics, working with really cool smart tractors and smart agriculture and precision agriculture applications. So with that, let me turn it back over to Ben, the CEO of Blue White Robotics, to introduce himself.
Thanks, Chris, and thanks, Caroline. I'm really happy to be here with the gang. Blue White Robotics, we are a company that is, our mission is to create a 21st century sustainable farm. We talked about labor shortage. We talked about being 10 billion people on this planet quite soon from now. And the way we do agriculture today is not the way that can enable food at a decent price to each and every one of us, just like you heard. So, and you've seen it also on the film. So the idea is that we take at the end of the day any type of vehicle and we transform it to autonomous alongside, and we, with one person or very few people in the farm, we can operate massive robotic capabilities that is playing all around 24/7 and day, night, and all year long. We are commercialized, and there aren't many companies in the world that are doing commercial autonomous vehicle in the outdoors over there, moving a few tons vehicles running around. And it's all about safety. So here comes where we're talking and how we let those vehicles run around in a safe way with understanding what is happening in this market.
Yeah, solving a real world problem. So then, first question to you, Ben. We just saw the video of the what happened in the winery, and so maybe you can share a little bit more about this particular use cases and what challenges the winery owners are trying to solve.
Well, I think the video explained quite a lot, and the idea is just to give a background. We're just talking about the tip of the iceberg. Unlike other use case, when we talk about, okay, should I decide local network or depend on public network? Here, there is no public network to depend on. Okay, so the usages of the idea is how can we operate vehicles remotely, let them be doing data collection, precision capabilities while they operate in a place that there is zero connectivity. Up till now, in the last century, people were there driving the vehicles. So they didn't need connectivity, and if there was some kind of public network, it was okay. So what happened here, and especially what we saw here, is not only an amazing use case, is also that it's actually happened. Okay, cooperating a startup moves fast, and also it creates certain capabilities. But when you cooperate with Intel and with the Chris team all together, this way we created the capability in quite a fast time. I think from ideation to actual capability, less than half a year, and the idea and the actual work in the farm, we're talking about really in a matter of days and weeks to create capabilities, which were zero capabilities over there. What and I think what will be interesting, just to hear from you, Chris, on that, you know, when we did it, what are the factors that you've seen on your side, you know, and what was your consideration in providing this connectivity in that side?
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Yeah, this was an amazing use case, right? And working with you guys, both Intel and Blue White, has been an awesome experience. And I think we came together nicely to really, you know, the factors, define the use case. So what are the IoT devices? In this case, tractors, cameras, handheld, you know, devices, and how they have to communicate back out to other areas, the back office of the farm, edge processing, things that have to go, you know, take place there that stays inside the private network. Understanding the cloud, what has to get processed out in the cloud, what are the applications running, what are the goals, what are the KPIs. You're back to Caroline's earlier point, ROI and total cost of ownership. These are all important factors in trying to get this right. And the most important element at the beginning is defining that use case down to that level. And then, you know, once we have a sense for what we're trying to do, what we're trying to connect, and how far out it has to connect to, then we need to take some time to really understand the topology of the environment. So the farm in this case, what's the spectrum look like? What's the RF, your radio frequency design for proper coverage and performance in this area? It's about a 2-mile radius. And so, you know, once we start to get a sense for that, we survey that topology of the farm. We see there's trees, there's other things that could interfere with spectrum. So what's the right placement of radios? Are there other people using spectrum in the area? We've got a spectrum analyzer system that looks across the country, and we can see pretty much where radios are and where other potential interferers are with that SAS. And then once we have that information and we consider these factors, we can start to build and implement a design that provides high speed, low latency connectivity to the tractors and the systems and the other things that control them, and make sure the information's moving in the places it needs to move, so people can get access and do their analytics. Other factors that come into play, security obviously is a very, very important security policy. In most cases, we're able to kind of drop these private networks or private wireless networks on the inside of existing security policy, but we do implement greenfield, and that's something you need to consider on the front end. Privacy, internet backhaul, monitoring, management, these are all facets. But as Caroline mentioned, Federated Wireless is essentially that easy button to solve all these things, working with our partners. We bring it all together to deliver against those ROI goals and meet what we're trying to do with our partners. Like Blue White Robotics has been fantastic at really helping deliver that use case and make it real for precision agriculture. So speaking of partners, Caroline, Intel is amazing at bringing talent together. And I'm curious, how did this partnership between the three companies really come together from your perspective?
So when we looked at the private network, which is a very distinct from, I grew up like you grew up in the public network side, which is much more of a one-on-one relationship, right? AT&T and Verizon and T-Mobile serve their consumer base. But when you go into private 5G, we need people like this together. Like otherwise, I would probably be rare to say I would get to meet Ben, but we met because the fact that we started this 5G Open Innovation Lab. We understand that to solve agricultural problem, it's not just you and me, Chris. We have to bring someone that have a solution to address a problem that Ben just so eloquently described. Similarly, if we're going to go to a retail space or education space, that partnership becomes much more diverse. So in this particular case, we seek you out, you seek us out, because we found this common theme, which is solving a labor shortage, improve the yield of the winery. And the solution becomes the easy button, the application that really solve the problem, and a technology enabler, right? This partnership is like this marriage together, but the end point is solving a particular vertical problem. So the ecosystem building becomes ever more important than before. And Intel just could not just say, well, here is a FlexRAN reference design. We need to come in with much more than that. We need to come in with different type of AI enabling software, edge inside software, for example, a Mac controller software. But we also need to bring in, be the trust advisor, be somewhere in the middle to bring everyone together. And I really think this blueprint can be repeated in other verticals and other partnership as well. But like if you go back, I just talked about the business problem constantly. Ben, like when we go into this, typically there is a success factor. Like how do you measure? How does the winery owner measure this is a successful case or unsuccessful? What criteria do they use?
At the end of the day, is return on investment, and we are talking about huge growers, okay, who have a tremendous amount of vehicles. Anywhere between 20 vehicles and another 50 IoT devices and 40 implements. We have customers with 600 vehicles and above. And in that area, we're talking about huge revenue customers, something like enterprise customers in a way. Huge revenue, very low margins. And this is why we're moving in this area to, for example, to robot as a service. Mm-hmm. Understood that the investment at the beginning shouldn't be high, and taking aftermarket tractors that are also already available at the scene reduced a lot of the entry problems in this area. If you look in agriculture, nothing big really happened in the last century. And we must do something big in that area. And when we're looking about, and it's also a follow-up on the necessity of the relationship between the trio here, is also how will it look at the end of the day. He doesn't want a headache. Okay, the customer wants one-stop shop that gives him the whole solution. At the end of the day, will pay per acre or per hour of usage or per capability. And the reference is, okay, what is the alternative? What if I had labor? What was the cost? What was the cost of the amount of chemicals that I used because I didn't do it in a precise way? And what is the amount of machinery that I needed because I needed a lot of machines, and now you don't need so many machines because they can work 24/7. So when we're calculating ROI, the end user doesn't really care if you have communication problems and others. It's part of the package that we are creating together. Okay, this is your product. We're giving you a 21st century sustainable farm. That's it. And we know how to make it happen in a way that, okay, it's not per worker that is using the local 5G network to communicate, or per vehicle, that it's the whole holistic solution that is happening over there. And you can show over time that you give a ROI. Examples, on our side, the investment on the aftermarket kit itself, we do it as transparent as possible, and it's the software as a service at the end of the day. Same goes with Federated, and same goes with Intel in the way that we're looking, okay, we want to minimize the amount of infrastructure needed to maximize the amount of units that are using it in a seamless way. So these are the things that we're looking, and when you give it, the scale on that part is really great, because the growers needs to take care of one thing, how to extract products from the land in a very efficient way, and we are assisting on that part. So this is how I see it in our side. And also when I see with you, Chris, is you can also share, I guess, how on the scaling part, it was very nice to show what we've done and to show capability. Now the big work that we have, all three of us, okay, how do we scale it up? How do we take this and copy paste it in a way that can be scalable and profitable for everybody?
Yeah, great points, Ben. And that's really the beauty of these CBRS networks. This free spectrum, basically, that people can harness. Once a private wireless network, in this case, is deployed, you can easily add more devices to that same network, and they can continue to be controlled from that same central point, in this case on the farm. And privacy is all maintained. IP addresses are not available on the public side; they're on the private side inside security policy. And to Ben's point, as the farm expands, then we can start to harness even more new technology, and Intel continues to innovate. So we're really looking forward to harnessing the power of FlexRAN. I think Caroline mentioned this earlier in her presentation. And what that's going to do is it's going to give us even more flexibility in the design and the reach. And with that, we can achieve even better cost points, back to Ben's point on ROI, through a distributed lower cost architecture to get to more devices, more points, and expand to even more radios, more farms. And I know we're going to talk about this more, but the farmer doesn't want to have to continue to augment cost. They want to kind of contain costs as much as they can, and then spread that network capability out to everything else that they want to do. And so the wireless network, once it's deployed, becomes that fabric. They can plug everything in. They can do more video. They can do more with moisture sensors. Lots of things they can take advantage of. So but in this case, this solution was really deployed and integrated for the winery. And again, we came together, did some great work there. But Ben, from your perspective, can this autonomous solution, this precision agriculture, these things we've built and you've built and brought to market, amazing devices, IoT solutions, can these be used in other use cases? Not other agriculture, but possibly other verticals or industries?
When we talk about when we started Blue White Robotics, and this is the whole idea, is to disrupt industries through autonomy. And we looked at each and every industry and said, okay, where will be the value proposition, the best value proposition? And we went into ag because we believe that this decade is all in on ag. On all the stars are aligning on the need. All the stars are aligning also on the technological capability. We see a lot of other industries such as oil and gas, mining, areas that are also in a huge need and shortage of, we don't need to bring people to those isolated places to move those vehicles. And yes, 2035, I see Blue White Robotics on Mars doing the same thing. We don't see people on that. It will be the first farm will be robotic farms. Okay, this is how we are building it. So we're looking at each and every industry. Under what we see today is ag, oil and gas, first responders, which is also a homeland security, places where you also need your private network for many other reasons, where you deploy so many vehicles and such a big amount. I do believe that in agriculture, not only it makes myself and my people in the company be very happy on what we're doing as for sustainability, but also I believe that the product market fit as for the available technology and the huge available market that is just waiting from zero computer edge to billions of edge computers that are needed there. It's not just, okay, how do I extend in 5% the amount of edge computing in this area? Or how do I extend the amount of local 5G networks or local communication? It's just endless. So I think the world is needed, and this type of solution is needed for many other industries. For Blue White, I guess we will decide in 3-4 years from now, do we expand to other industries or go all in ag? It's yet to be seen on that part. So, but Caroline, you see the whole picture, and and you can give a broader picture on that. How you see the, where is the money at the end of the day? What are the business challenges that you see as a company that is holistic on that side? That must be addressed when you decide whether to utilize private network or any other solutions that you have in your portfolio.
I think you actually covered it quite well. Some of the things about like coverage and capacity that become the basis of the criteria decision. But more and more we see the controllability. They want to control the data. They want to control the security. Want that. They don't want like one size fits all. Best case scenario. They want something that's more customized for them, that fits their security policy, fits their who can enter their network, and more importantly, what devices. With a lot of the uncertainties in the business environment today, having a private network, especially in the cellular side, I think gave enterprise CIOs and the chief operating officer a lot more control, and having the real-time access to data analytics to be able to feed it back and to improve their operation efficiency becomes really important. And some of the verticals you mentioned, mining and so on, I think those are really ripe for the private network to enter, even just to address the connectivity issue. And then the other thing that we talk about is as a service model. Can this be done as a service model? The enterprise is so used to consume cloud. Can we make this? That's another business challenge. In fact, I want to pose this back to Chris, and you've been talking with a lot of enterprise, given the history of Federated. When the enterprise owners start calculating ROI of a private network, what factor do they take in? Was I too far, Rich, or am I kind of on the ballpark?
I think you're spot on, especially with the as a service trend. I mean, that's been in the cloud area for quite a while. Again, Intel, other companies have been brilliant at helping to enable that. But just from a shared spectrum orientation, it's a great place to start with free spectrum, because that right off the bat, that takes a huge cost point that a lot of people have to build into network planning. And, you know, with CBRS, thanks to the FCC, thanks to everybody who participated in opening that mid-band spectrum that reaches these really far distances, but still gives high speed, low latency connection. That's, when it comes to ROI, that's a big factor that's helping everybody, as well innovators. And just, you know, kind of advice to enterprises out there who are, you know, kind of looking at this. One of the other pieces of advice I have when you're thinking about ROI, you're thinking about these projects, is don't boil the ocean. There's so many enterprises who want to, you know, analyze and solve everything all at once. And I think that's overshooting. I mean, you can do that. It just takes a long time to get the whole ball rolling. And in this case, and in a lot of others, what I'm seeing people that are really successful do is they pick a simple, very valuable use case. In this case, precision agriculture, right? What great timing Ben has with his company, with all the problems with getting, you know, the right amount of fertilizers and other chemicals and things that are necessary to run a farm. So you pick a precision agriculture point that saves money, that helps return, you know, ROI on the people side. And labor shortage is a big problem too. But the most important point is pick that use case and get started, and don't try to cover everything all at once. And then, you know, with that, once you define the total solution, including all the backhaul security, all the things we talked about earlier, you know, you kind of weave it back in to a supplier that'll work with you, or an ecosystem, a team that comes together who will partner on that ROI, that outcome, not just sell you a network connection. So that's the last thing people need. They really need somebody who's going to be responsible. In this case, Intel, Blue White, and Federated Wireless all came together to make that happen. So, Ben, you know, on your end, just back on the winery solution, were there any lessons we learned, you know, from this deployment that you'd want to share with the group out here today?
Yeah, I'll do it short, because I see that there are also some questions from the audience, and let Kelly jump in and give it to us on that one. But I think the main idea is to, you know, we're talking about revolution. It's not, it's a total revolution. So how can we create scalable capabilities? Started with the applications that we know how to make it happen. Make sure that the same application is as flexible as possible for other users. So you don't need to invest for each private network a lot of effort on planning and creating the correct solution over there. And this is what we found, that how we can scale it up as fast as possible. This is way to do it, whether it's with you guys, Federated, and with Intel. And we're looking at the holistic architecture of this part, and who is in charge of what. Blue White is in charge of the applications of different types of autonomous capabilities, and different type of edge computing and holistic 5G networks will come from Intel, and different types of bandwidth and capabilities will come from Federated. And this is how we will come and scale it up together. Go ahead, Kelly.
Okay, well, Ben, you might have just answered the question that I'm about to ask you from.
Well, I had the teaser. I saw the question.
Yes. Okay. Well, but the question, you know, each of you have sort of addressed this more or less, I think. But you know, I do think it's worth getting into maybe a little bit more detail. And the question was, what are the different solution components that were brought by the different partners here? You know, Intel, Blue White, and Federated. And I don't know if any of you want to sort of flesh out the preview that Ben just gave us in terms of, you know, what each of you brought to the table.
I would say, I'll start by saying that Intel, we really see ourselves as a technology provider, the foundation. And I'd like to say that we provide a scaffolding of innovation software that really extract the best, the telemetries from our best-in-class silicon. So then we really started, you know, you don't need to know that the underlying, but we expose that telemetry to people like Chris. Maybe Chris, you can take that.
Yeah, sure. So the different components really building upon the scaffolding. So, and for me, it's when you think about the use case. So in this case, Blue White brought in amazing tech that, you know, made so you can have a self-guided tractor that is moving around the farm, and it also is measuring and delivering precision agriculture, chemicals, fertilizers, other things that are necessary on the farm. And then there's video cameras and other things. So all this gets delivered by Blue White. And then the connectivity piece from those devices back in, well, that's where Federated comes in and harnesses that connection point back into Intel's Smart Edge. So the wireless radios that are distributed around the farm, back into that central processing point, the Intel Smart Edge, where we have the core of the 5G network running. And then, at that point, we're able to connect back into the back office. We're able to connect back into the internet through the backhaul, et cetera. And so Federated really kind of brings all that together with a design, a delivery, and a management philosophy that it continues to grow it and operate it, working again in conjunction with our partners. And then back to the earlier comments on FlexRAN things. Once we get to that, we'll be able to open up the architecture and distribute radios out in different ways using a distributed architecture that super low cost point. So those are the different pieces that come together. But Ben, did I miss anything? Is there anything you wanted to add in?
I actually think we're out of time.
I know that we're out of time, and I hope that the main idea is just to give a teaser here. I think we're just at the beginning of a huge revolution, and thank you for having us here.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you all
Thanks,
so
Ben.
much. And to our audience, please join us for our next session, which is on aligning technology investments with business outcomes. Thank you all so much.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Kelly. See you, Ben. See you, Caroline.
Bye.
Bye.